Hello, hello.
Hi.
Wonderful to be able to get an episode 2 going. I'm super excited about that. Thank you so much for coming and participating in that and volunteering a little bit of time. I really, really appreciate it. So, to start off, what was your inspiration on getting you into art? What made you want to create things to get out there and show people?
Um, Honestly, watching Sunday morning cartoons was a really big inspiration.
Which cartoons?
Pokemon was a definite.
That seems to
Um,
be a super common thread among Discord artists, not gonna lie.
yeah, I mean, it was also just when I first started watching like Naruto, I know that's another one, and then there was this one wolf anime, and man, that
Was
really
it
struck a
Spice and
chord.
Wolf?
No, it's an older anime called Wolf's Rain, and
Okay, I'm
oh
familiar with that one too.
yeah, it has a really good soundtrack and everything, but that is honestly where it kicked off my art career.
Yeah, I can definitely see more of like an anime and Eastern Japanese kind of style in your art. But you
Yeah.
have a super adorable style as well. Like you really, really do a good job of putting out like a positive energy with your pieces that I've seen.
Oh, thanks.
So, how do you go from just being somebody who likes to doodle things to pushing yourself in a direction where you start thinking that that's something that you want to make money off of?
Um, Honestly, making money is not, something that is honestly what my main concern is for art. It's just being able to help people and make their visions come true half of the time. Um,
I love that. That's so awesome. What a great reason for doing it, honestly.
yeah, but definitely just seeing like others smiling from just what I create is the best feeling. Like it doesn't compare to money.
Lincoln said something very similar as far as the feeling of appreciating somebody appreciating your work, and I agree with that. All I do is scribble, but I get that feeling as well.
Yeah.
So, how do you advertise yourself then? Do you do any work to put yourself out there and get people's eyes on you so that you can help them out, or do you see that as something that's unnecessary?
Um, I think it's very necessary in the art world to have ads. Unfortunately, there's so many people with wonderful art that you can get, overshadowed. And so recently I have been, paying other people to advertise my art to kind of get it out there. Um, but
Huh,
yeah,
I didn't
definitely.
know that was a service that was available.
Yeah, there's a couple of pages on Instagram that kind of boost smaller people. So,
Okay. And what does that kind of service go for? Like, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of money do you spend on that?
um, honestly, very cheap, not expensive, like $3 to 5 at most with these pages on Instagram. But it does help in some ways, but it does also take time.
Well, yeah, anything as far as like getting an audience goes is going to take time, which is why I don't expect this to take off it for a while. I just figure if I keep putting the legwork in and pushing it, then it'll get me there. But that's neat to hear somebody talk about paying for an outside source of advertisement. I considered it
Yeah.
myself already.
Yeah, most people are actually scared to advertise because they're like, oh, it's a waste of time, or they don't want to seem like they bought their viewers.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm at. I don't want it to seem from the beginning like I had paid somebody else to help me get attention.
Right.
But then, I mean, it's kind of, a vicious circle on that one because if you don't want to do it in the beginning so you don't seem like you're paying to build your audience, then by the time you have an audience, there's no real purpose to it because you've already got that group of people who are interested in what you're doing. So as far as actually putting yourself out there, what kind of social medias do you use? It sounds like you're on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Also DeviantArt.
Yeah,
I've
I love that one. It gets so much of a just stigma from people being weird like they were back in like 2006, but man, that's such a great platform. I have very fond memories of it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be on other platforms, like I would try to post my art everywhere, Pinterest, like Tumblr, even Twitter sometimes. Um, but yeah, more you can get your art out there, honestly, the better. So
So what would you recommend somebody do when they're just starting up as kind of like their first venture into social media?
definitely just go to D. There's a lot of people there, and they'll always be looking for, someone else to
Okay.
just make artwork.
That might be a little controversial for some people, but I agree.
Some people, but yeah, Instagram is a good start too.
Yeah, that seems like a good image-based platform for sure. I'm not on it myself yet, but I think I need to be. Now, I did mention that I wanted to talk about a bit about pricing. How did you first decide how you were going to price yourself, and was there any very specific like outside sources that you used to kind of help you with that information?
Gosh, I've been doing commissions for a long, long time now, and my prices have varied over the years. I used to only do like $1, and now I am at some can be $30 for commissions, depending on details and everything. And yeah, it's very hard to price art because you don't know if the consumer is gonna buy it anyways. But the people who do buy it honestly are great. Um, it just has to do with a lot of style and how much time you take. Because for a piece that I usually sometimes can take 8 hours or even like a week to make, and you got to consider that when pricing because that is part of your life. You're taking your time and doing that instead of doing other things that you could be doing. And that's what they are mostly paying for is your labor.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard it explained and broken down to me like that before, where a good way to price yourself is to figure out what you would want to be paid for an hourly wage and then add that up over the estimate of how long you think it'll take you to complete the piece and tack on like a $50 top to that so you have something that you can request as like a initial security deposit, for just having started put your time in.
yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of young artists remind themselves with pricing because they're like, oh, I just started out. Well, there's people that can't draw. And
There's tons of them. I'm one of them.
there's people that can't draw and you know they're always looking for somebody to make artwork for them even if it's a beginner artist. So like anyone can start commissions, and the more you start them the better because then you gain a repetition for yourself. You have more customers, more people that know you, and it's just in general good.
Yeah, and it does seem like having I've gone in and had commissions done quite a few times, and I find the most awkward ones are ones where people are on places like Fiverr, for example, where it's very much kind of business ending, and
Hmm.
I don't generally like going to a platform like that to find an artist because you get nearly no information on them other than their basic, web page stuff. You
Yeah.
It just doesn't give you an idea of somebody's work ethic, like how into it they actually are. When I hire an artist, I want to talk to somebody who's really passionate about doing their work because I'm passionate about the work that I'm having them do. Like you said, it's somebody with a vision going to get that vision made.
Hmm.
So that's where the idea for this came from, was just helping people get to know an artist. And my goal is to, through the course of this conversation, give people an opportunity to kind of get to know you so that they feel more comfortable when they go and purchase things from you.
Yeah, exactly.
So there seems to be So, I was talking about this with Lincoln in the last episode. We were talking about NSFW stuff, and you had mentioned with your name, somebody had asked if you were looting Nekos. So,
Yeah, yeah.
as far as NSFW stuff goes, what's your stance on that? Because Lincoln had an interesting viewpoint there, and I'd like to see more about like how the general artist community feels.
Honestly, I don't have a problem with SW. Um, like I know a lot of artists tend to stay away from it because they're worried that, oh, it's gonna ruin my image, people will not like my art, I'll gather, creeps. Um, and I don't see it that way. Um, I definitely encourage like exploring art um in any way you can, especially just that in general, because you never know what you're good at, and that could be, your next big thing. So I do dabble in it, and I definitely encourage others to try it, because honestly, if you can't draw close, it's a good, opt. But yeah, I don't have any problems with it, and so
Well, not only does it seem like, if you can't get that detail into the clothes, but just anatomy in general by its very nature, if you're really going to get solid on a human being's body, you're not going to do it by focusing on them while they're wearing an outfit. You're going to do it by
exactly.
focusing on naked bodies and drawing it properly. So,
Yeah,
I see that for sure. It is definitely a learning experience, but we were mentioning how, like you said, it does kind of ruin somebody's image because if you start putting out like some freaky stuff, nobody's going to want to really hire you to draw some Hello Kitty stuff.
exactly. And I think if you are going to advertise yourself for specifically that, then have a separate account
Now
because,
that seems like a super smart idea, just having like an after dark account essentially so that you can put that stuff out there.
yeah, and
I
I've
mean,
seen a
and
bunch of artists
it's
do
not
it.
like that's something that's not regularly used in different mediums. I mean, as far as authors go, Judy Blume, she didn't change her name, but she was, super. Everybody read her books when we were in like middle school, elementary school. She wrote some adult novels too. So it's not
Exactly.
like you don't see this in different mediums. It's not something new, and I've heard that it almost seems a little false when you do it because you're pretending to be somebody else, but I don't think of it that way. You're just giving a different persona essentially so that you can have another creative outlet.
Exactly. And you are protecting your image by doing that, and I don't see a problem.
No, for sure, I agree with that, and I would recommend that people do more of it. It seems like it would be annoying, especially if you have a good following, to have to rebuild yourself up just specifically for this genre, but yeah, it definitely seems like a good way to kind of keep yourself in a stable place so that you can do both things.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that for myself, even doing like because I don't, I would like to keep it, PG as we discussed before, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not all of art, and I'd like as much as possible to be a utility for all artists from every different medium. So
Right.
I was thinking maybe a like an after hours type account for GbG as well, um, and just to be able to bring on some of the NSFW creators out there. Because man, I have seen some Patreons. Have you seen those people making
Oh,
like
yeah.
$12,000 a month just to draw
Yeah.
nudes?
Exactly. Yeah. My
How good
husband
is that gotta feel? As
watches.
an artist, how would that make you feel?
I would be so happy. Oh my gosh. I wish.
So I know we talked about it before, and it's not going to be as funny for me personally, but let's talk about your name. How did
Yeah.
ThiccNeko come about?
Well, like I said, it was because, the whole thing with thick back in like a couple years ago has just like, I don't know, it was like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. So I'm gonna go with it. So, and then I was like, well, I also like drawing cat girls, so that goes pretty well. And so thick-thighed cat girls, and yep,
I
that's
was wrong.
pretty
That was
much.
as funny the second time.
It's funny no matter how much you look at it, because like it's either I get called fat cat, or just I'm looting the Nekos, or oh you draw thick Neko girls, yeah, but
So how old were you when you chose that name? Because I've made some poor choices on screen names when I was younger. So I would get it if
honestly,
you were like 14, 15, you know?
no, I haven't had this name for a long time. I've had multiple names over the course of my career as an artist. Um, like when I was younger, I started out as Angel Wolf 126. That
Killing
was
it with the
fun.
DeviantArt names.
Exactly. And then I had Water the Wolf. That was fun. And
I'm sensing a
Sleep.
theme.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the reason behind that name is because I was like, oh, what goes well with the word wolf? Let's get another W. And I was like, oh, water. That sounds cool. Yeah, little 13-year-old
That's
me.
so pure. I love it.
And then it was Sleepy Prince because I was like, oh, Sleepy and like princes, that's cute. And then it came to this, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna fit. So I don't know. I think it fits just
Do
what
you
I
see
draw in
yourself
general.
changing it at any time soon? Like, are you planning on rebranding at some point like you have in the past?
No, I actually don't see it changing ever, and that's amazing.
That's what's up. Good for you. You really found your lane there then.
Yeah.
Now, when you're putting yourself out there and being an artist, how do you deal with criticism? Do you find a lot of that, or rather, do you find a lot of negativity in it, or do you just look for the positive stuff of people trying to encourage you to create more?
I never see it as a negative thing, honestly.
Oh,
Unless
there's some
they,
negative people out there. We're talking
oh,
about the internet.
yeah, I know. I've seen some people lash out with criticism that obviously didn't to happen, but I don't know. I really haven't gotten bad criticism. Um, I think it's all been constructive from what I've had over the years of being an artist. I mean, of course, there's people that don't just say, oh, well, this is a criticism, and they actually are just bashing on your art. And I've seen that happen to a lot of young artists, and that's why they get discouraged to draw.
Yeah,
But
that really disappoints me when I see that, especially in a young artist who's just finding their way and doesn't have, the experience to be able to know what they can do. So they're just experimenting, and you see a lot of people trashing on them because of that. And that I find that to be disgusting, honestly, because who knows what that person could be doing in 10, 15 years. But if you destroy their confidence early on, they might not at all.
exactly, and I've seen it happen too much for young artists. And I try to encourage younger artists all the time when I can. If I see somebody that's just started out, or around the age that I was when I didn't really know the ends of art, I definitely drop a comment. Hey, you're doing great. Your lines are beautiful and keep up the good job. Um, because bashing them's not going to get them any in life. It's just going to stop their career. And, they could have been somebody that becomes a comic artist later on in life, or just does something amazing.
They could
So
have
it's
been the
really
person who
disappointing.
animates the next great Disney movie that children are going to watch for,
Exactly.
20, 30 years. It just
Like, you don't
destroys any
know.
kind of possibility. It disgusts me.
Yeah, but
So
I
I
think
really, really, really appreciate when I see communities that are all about positivity, even in, I wouldn't say the worst, but the least quality of art drawing, or not just drawings, but, any type of medium. So, for
right.
example, I'm in a bunch of artistic discords, but the one that really stands out to me is the one called Art Cafe. And I posted some of my own stuff there, and I always tell people I just make scribbles, but
Mhm.
they pick out the little things that they really appreciate of it, like, oh, the coloring that you did there was really good. And to see somebody do that for like my low quality nonsense that I just do is like oh, haha, I want to see what happens. It really uplifts me, and it's really nice to see because that means they're doing that for just about everybody on that level, and that's really fantastic because that whole community is just building up what I hope is like the next generation of amazing artists.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I'm also in that. I don't know if you know, but yeah, that they're honestly really good with what they do, and I appreciate every single person that takes the time to people's art because, that makes people's days and honestly makes mine. Even if it's not a comment for my art, like just seeing it just makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's just a constant positive energy flow, and it's so nice to see with all the negativity that you get from just daily life in general. It's wonderful to have that one place you can go to where there's nothing but good vibes and happy energy.
Yeah.
So when when you are putting yourself out there and getting into things like Discord, do you ever consider making your own community just to try and build up your own fan base?
Yeah, definitely. It's not a bad idea. Um, I've tried it before. It didn't succeed. I'm gonna try it again because, never stop trying. But I don't know, it can be very difficult to start up your own community and see where it goes because there's always rule breakers and stuff. So,
I fortunately haven't had to deal with any of that yet, but yeah, I foresee it eventually happening. Um,
yeah.
Now you say you have started and not to be rude, but failed. But there's always lessons to be learned in failure. So having done that and experienced it, what kind of tips do you have for other people who'd be getting into a venture like that? Like what specifically, if anything, do you think led to its downfall, and how would you avoid it in the future?
Um, I think what led to its downfall is the not being so strict on rules that I had posted because people abused it and they went around it a lot. And because I'm a nice person, I think that was the whole downfall because I didn't have anyone else to, help moderate it. But um, definitely when you make a community, you need multiple people to be in charge because if you don't, it's just going to go all over the
Yeah,
place.
it seems like the general consensus is you want to have it somewhere in a spread of almost one person on at all times.
Yeah.
Because when people, especially in large groups, are left to their own devices, it seems like they just make poor choices.
Yeah, and it's also good to have multiple minds because, like, you never know if you can get in a situation with somebody, do a certain role, and then the other person's like, well, can you explain it? You can also be fuming in that moment, so it's good to step back and have the other person take care of it. Um,
Well, not only I think just for executing the rules, I think also for coming up with them, because in any endeavor, I would say collaborative efforts are always my most creative ones. I don't
oh
come up
yeah,
with my best ideas when I'm sitting by myself and thinking. I come up with them when I get to express them to somebody else and try and break down why I think this works.
exactly.
So yeah, that definitely makes sense. So you would recommend getting into uh, a moderating community of your own, like having some people you trust there so that you have some outside voices and some other watchful eyes.
Yeah.
Now, when you do that, though, I mean, you're really asking people to dedicate a good bit of their time and their efforts to doing this for you. So, is that something that you consider an effort worthy of being paid for, or is that something that you would look for just specifically volunteers? And I don't mean in just generally monetary. I mean like some kind of reward system. Maybe like you do a piece for them. Just a trade, something.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you should reward people who do help you because if they don't get any rewards for what they're doing, unless they really, really want to do it, um, then they kind of move
Which, side note,
on.
a lot of people do really, really want to do it. A lot of people do go out there and offer themselves up because they're just that into the idea of the community.
Yeah, and that's currently what I'm doing as well. And I love every step of it. I love helping people, even if it's half of my day after a long work day, I don't care. As long as they smile and, are happy, and I can make sure that everything's a safe community. Um, yeah, that's
I'm getting very mom vibes off of what you just said.
I get that a lot. Yeah, people say I'm
You've
very
definitely
motherly.
got that maternal instinct.
I don't want people to be in harm's way at all. Yeah.
Now, let's see. We've covered a good bit of information. Uh, so, what's your primary thing for getting yourself out there? I know we talked about like which social medias you use, but which one's the one that you rely on when you really want to push something that you're really energetic about?
Honestly, it's just grown to Instagram. It used to be DeviantArt, but um, yeah, Instagram is where I mostly pump out most of my artwork. I'm slowly trying to move that to over to also Patreon because it'll benefit me more and I can make more content. So,
So, you do have a Patreon set up and running?
yes, I do.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part. I think you cut out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I do have a Patreon that's running.
Awesome. In that case, I'm going to need you to give me that link so that I can put it in the description box of this.
Okay.
Because shout out to Patreon, support your artists.
Exactly.
I love those services. I'm not a huge fan of Patreon personally, as the more I learn about kind of their dealings, but I do
Yeah.
love the idea of having a way for a community to be able to support the people that they really appreciate. And I feel like that there needs to be more of that in the world. Why is it you only think of Patreon when, I mean, Subscribe Star is up and coming, but there should be more ventures for people to be able to do this. Just more ways for them to support the people that they love, because there's so much joy that comes out of just checking out someone's creations, especially when, like you said, you're having a hard work day and stuff like that. It's just that little thing that you really appreciate.
Yeah.
So on your Etsy, which also link will be in the description because amazing, support the artist. Uh, when you had I believe it was a magnet, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you're creating a product like that, uh, how much effort do you put into the first drawing? Like, I let me think of how to word this a little bit better. How do you decide which piece it is you want to be mass produced?
Gosh, actually, the magnet that I have on my Etsy, I made that over a year ago, the concept. Um, and I was so excited with it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna sell so well. Um, and I still hope it will. But yeah, it's honestly, I just decided not too long ago to recently touch up on it, ask other multiple people, like, hey, does this look good? Does this not? I spent a good 10 hours on just deciding which concepts were better and like 3 days going through and lining repeatedly just to have a really good vector. And yeah, it takes a lot of time deciding that,
I
and
don't
it's
doubt
not
that
some
at all. It seems
yeah,
like
it's
it
not
would be a big decision because it's not like you can just put it up there and have it there like you would for like an emoji or something. You've actually got to put the money into getting these things created so you can sell them.
exactly. And that's another thing people like don't consider is I know a lot of people try to stay away and make their own things at home. which I originally did, but the quality that you get from going to manufacturer is absolutely amazing. Like with the magnets, um, I went to Sticker Mule and they have great prices and they were really helpful and they actually, you know, proof every design that can help you out with that. So you don't have to take as much time as you would if you're going to, you know, uh, a manufacturer that isn't like that, um, like ones in China. But yeah, most artists do make the mistake of just going out and buying the things that they think that they can make it with and then kind of trying to sell it and it doesn't have the quality that a manufacturer would have, so it sells less.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, how difficult was it for you to decide which company you were going to go with? Because that does seem like a big decision. Did you have to do a bunch of research and go into? Or, I mean, did you contact any of them beforehand?
Um, I honestly, the best thing you can do looking for a manufacturer is going to other artists. Like even if they have a huge following, if you ask, "Hey, where did this manufactured from?" They'll usually always reply, and you can even get samples at certain places. So, um, definitely, I did search the web for hours. But the best you can do is actually going with one that's not from China. I know it's a lot cheaper, but having somewhere that is actually more prominent is the best option for you, even if it might be a little bit more expensive,
Putting the whole
at
country on
least.
blast right now.
So- yeah, but I mean, at least you know that the quality is going to be good and it's not going to get stolen, because I've seen that happen with a lot of manufacturers from China. They do steal artists' designs after they have commissioned to make a
Well,
product.
on that, I would like to say it's probably not. I wouldn't think of it so much as theft. I would think of it as I would willingly put money on the thought that there was an agreement that was signed saying that when you upload this to our service, the rights to it become ours and we can do with it what we want. And it's probably buried way deep in that so that you
Yeah,
don't see it and you just accept and do it. And then they can do with your piece whatever they want without letting you know. So that would be something that could be viewed as stealing, but you've willingly given them your right through just outright ignorance.
and yeah, it's something that a lot of artists don't consider because like when a contract pops up, you got to read through that. I don't care how long it takes you because that can be a whole entire difference of money that you're losing
That could be
because
whether or not you own the piece. I mean, it's
exactly.
so detrimental to somebody's success that they own their own materials. It doesn't matter what avenue you're in, whether you're a musician, an artist, a writer. I mean, if you don't own your stuff, then you're playing in somebody else's hands and you just lose control. There's nothing you can do there.
Yeah, and it's sad to see that happen to a lot of people because they're not careful. They just click and sign their whole artwork away, basically. In such a big population of people that we have on the world, uh, you got to be careful because there's always people that you think are nice, but they're really just out to steal your ideas. Like, I know it's good to have close people, but you always have to watch out because
Yeah, for
you
sure.
don't
Be
know the
vigilant
next
and be
person.
out there for yourself, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it does sound selfish as a philosophy, but if you can, I think of it this way: if you create something that's good for yourself, then you can use what you've created to benefit other people and bring it back and, cycle through the community again.
Hmm.
Because successful people, oftentimes, I mean, they're the ones that the most benefit comes from. If you look at anybody who's really made it and then brought up by doing teaching, by offering just words of advice, and those are the people that I really look up to. Like, are you into comic books at all?
Yeah.
So there's one DC artist. It's unfortunate. His first name escapes me. His last name is Lee. He's an amazing dude. He does Batmans and all sorts of different comic work, but he also streams his art. So
Hmm.
this dude, I mean, he's made it. He's there. He's at where he needs to be. He's an amazing artist. People know his name. Jim Lee, that's it. I say
Right.
people know his name right after forgetting his first name. It feels bad. But even at that level, he's still out there showing people how he does his thing and kind of giving instructions on how they can get to where he is. And that's so wonderful to see. And I
Yeah.
really hope that a lot more people get into that, because it's so nice to see people who've made it go back and show the people who are trying to make it how they did it.
Yeah, and that's something to always consider as you slowly start to get up in popularity is always give back because
Absolutely. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
everyone wants to know the secrets behind what you like. I You can ask a bunch of people. They're always like, "Can I see your work in progress?" Because, it helps them get a better idea of how you structure things and how they could use that in their own artwork to hopefully get better.
Now, on that, being an artist who has a Patreon going, does commission work, has been in the game for a little while, what would your tips for an aspiring up and comer be who's at the moment just like scribbling away and just doing it for fun but wants to move into the same kind of avenue that you're in? What would you tell that person?
Studying art, even like going to small art classes and like I wish when I was younger that I had the time and money growing up to go do those things. And if you do, I would definitely, 'cause I probably would have been like really ahead of the game um, with anatomy, just overall structure of, because it can be hard um, being a self-taught artist. But if you have someone who has the time and they're willing to teach you, that's the best thing in the whole wide world as an artist, as a beginner. Um, because sometimes it's just good to have somebody to start you out as an inspiration, just lead a nice path, because it's very hard. You don't have somebody to look up to, um, especially in person. I think it helps more than online. Like you can be inspired from online, but having somebody to talk to, an actual person face to face, because they can show you. Your inspiration online can't really exactly show you in person. They can show you through the internet, but it's not the same as them helping, guiding you through your whole process.
Having a mentor there to actually physically show you what's happening.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, who would you consider your mentor?
Family, definitely. I know it's
Anybody
cheesy.
specific, though?
My brother, my gosh, my brother, he was a hard person. Uh, Growing up, he wasn't exactly the kindest for saying my art was good. Um, he gave me a really tough push into the art world where growing up he's like, "Oh, that looks crappy." And you know, that I got so frustrated with him because he's my sibling and we're 5 years apart, but he'll always be like, "I think you can do better." Like, and that strived me to keep drawing every single day as a kid. And
And now, on that side note, on that, now like we discussed earlier with somebody putting down a beginning artist and destroying their confidence to be able to continue doing it, I would say that that doesn't play an effect when it's somebody like your brother, because that's a totally different type of experience. That's somebody that you love and trust already. So it might be that they're saying these types of things just specifically to, like you said, give you that push and kind of drive you to strive to be better.
Yeah, and you know,
That's not at all the same as somebody just randomly on the internet taking a just awful take and, putting someone down.
yeah, because my brother knew that it would make me draw more and more. It's not like some random person going, "Oh, you should stop drawing." If my brother said that to me, I would be like, "I'm gonna keep drawing." If a stranger said that to me, I would probably, yeah, drop every. But it's I've been drawing for 12 years now, and I honestly have to think because he he looks at my art now and he's amazed. And even then, sometimes he'll be like, I think you can do better. And now it's so funny, but he recently started drawing and he's coming to me
Oh, how
now.
the tables have turned.
Exactly. He's coming to me now for advice, and it's it's really funny because now I can help him. Like he gave me that hard push. So, you know, and I give him a hard push now too. But it's yeah, it's completely different. I really have to thank for honestly just telling me that I needed to work better and work harder and do more. So yeah, I owe a lot to my brother.
That's beautiful that you have that kind of relationship in your life. Good for you.
Thank you.
So we are at about the 45-minute mark. I think it's about time we go ahead and wrap it up. Now, obviously, I am just starting out. I'm not going to be getting many views or anything like that. I don't have an audience. I'm building. But hopefully, one day this takes off and people get eyes on it. And with that in mind, do you have any words of closing that you'd like to give anybody?
Um, Honestly, just keep at it. Don't give up on because you don't know where art will take you, places that you could.
There is necessarily no blueprint. I mean, everybody's just kind of winging it. There's not like I was talking with Lincoln. There isn't really an end goal for art. Everybody can take it in whatever direction they want to. So yeah, doing the legwork. That seems like a good philosophy.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, I appreciate your time. It's been wonderful getting to talk to you. I'm very, very thankful, and I hope that someday I can build this up to a point to where people who volunteer their time like this actually benefit from it. And thank you so much for being a part of that building process.
Thank you for having.
And on that, I think we're done.